We're Hassani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships. This is the Couples Academy Show.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hassani.
And I'm Danielle.
And we're here every single morning at 9:30 a.m. to give you some powerful information that will help change and transform your life and your relationship. Listen, hope you had a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Many of you had many plans. You did many great things. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but let's just welcome the people.
Well, I just want to ask my people, if you are watching this for the first time, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. That makes sure that you do not miss a show. And when you come on, like all of you are doing, because you guys are wonderful students, you come on and you let us know that you're there by saying good morning, and then tell us where you're from, because we are keeping track. And I told you guys about the map. Man, we are scratching off so many places all around the world. When you see how this broadcast is reaching the world, you are going to be stunned. And you guys have so much to do with it because you are sharing this to your friends. Sometimes we see it in there. You'll tag about 30 people all at once and everybody joins on and watches. So we appreciate you. Listen, how was Valentine's Day? Did I almost say Thanksgiving? How was Valentine's Day? Did you get out? Did you go to an empty restaurant, or did you find that all of the restaurants were packed, like Hassani and I discovered?
Yeah, well, I'm thankful. I'm thankful for Valentine's Day. So yeah, it could be Thanksgiving too, babe.
Well, let me just say this. We were really excited because we were like, nobody's going to go out. We could just go here when we want to. Found out everything was booked. You might have experienced it yourself, but the Lord led us right to the empty movie theater. So wasn't that cool?
It was.
I don't know if it was its first time opening up, but movie theaters opening up, and we were so blessed to pretty much have the entire thing to ourselves. So it was phenomenal for us.
It really, 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 really was. So listen, guys, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Let the people know that we're here. Share with your community. We have a great question, but we do want you to post. What did you do for Valentine's Day? Put it in the chat because we want to acknowledge you and have some conversation about it. Now, for some of you, it's a big deal. For some of you, it's just another day, and that's fine. Whatever works for you as a couple works, but we just want to know what you did to celebrate your love. All right, now we're talking about a question. If you remember on Friday, we ended off with a question that I said we need to dedicate a little bit of time to. So I'm going to reread the question, and here it is. How do I deal with the resentment and bipolar emotions that come along with healing from my wife's emotional affair? She had a close call friendship with the husband of a couple that was really close to us. Unfortunately, my friend committed suicide before any of this was exposed, leaving a lot of questions and unresolved issues. We're seeing a local counselor who is wonderful, but she had to skip this week's session, and I was really looking forward to making some progress on this problem. I've struggled with this. I want my wife to hold me, but feel repulsed when she does. Help. There's a lot in this, and we want to unpack this. Number one, if you remember a few episodes ago, we were talking about how not all affairs are the same. Like there's a difference between if I'm in a one-night stand with a stranger versus an emotional affair with a coworker. Those are two different types of affairs. There's a different type of hurt and pain when you're having an affair with someone that you're not connected to versus your spouse is having an affair with somebody that you are connected to. Mm-hmm. And we've had many people who have been inappropriate, had close call friendships or full-blown affairs with family members. Recently, we just talked about having one with a neighbor. Yeah. And now in this situation, it is with a couple friend. So imagine that other couple that you roll with, that you're connected to, that in essence, you do life with, right? You vacation together, you do meals together, your children go to the same school together, you may go to the same church together. You're a part of each other's life on a regular basis. We as a couple are with you as a couple, but here's where it gets a little tricky. I have a relationship with the wife, you have a relationship with the husband, and there's ongoing casual conversations that happen. So it's no longer Team Pettiford with Team Jones. It's husband with wife wife with husband, and then that creates the scenario.
Yeah, it sounds like it started out with good intentions, maybe as couple friends, and then maybe there was more of a connection, because sometimes people just connect and vibe more with the other. But when it takes a turn for the worse and becomes a sexual relationship, now you're in trouble. And it sounds like with this story, there was a major betrayal, because now this best friend has now had an affair with this man's wife.
And, you would say, well, how in the world could you do that? Like, that's the biggest sign of betrayal. And it's a double betrayal. But how is it possible that this can happen? Well, people tend to form connections with people who they are in close proximity to, people who they are in an ongoing interaction with. That's why you see so many affairs happen at work. That's why you see so many affairs happen with people that you serve with, whether it be a church organization, a political community organization, whatever the case may be. If I'm constantly engaged in interacting with somebody, it increases the probability. And that's exactly why you need to have boundaries and borders and parameters and a shared value system to make sure.
And maybe they did, maybe at some point they did have those boundaries, but getting so close and then, making it okay for the opposite sex part of the friendship to be able to happen individually. I think that was a big major issue, because we all have issues within our marriage, right? So, there are times when we ebb and we flow and we're not our best selves as a couple. And when we have those friends, we typically lean into our friends, right? When we go through things in our marriage, we usually have that best girlfriend, or your husband has that best guy friend that they can go talk to and get advice from. But when it is an opposite sex friend that's also close to the relationship, it could actually fuel the issues, because maybe everybody sees your issues, right? Like, we all wear kind of our idiosyncrasies on our sleeves in many cases. So it really does open up that Pandora's box where you really just don't know where this can go, depending on the vulnerabilities in those people.
Absolutely. And then you're dealing with the whole grieving factor, because when you understand what grieving is, it is dealing with a loss. So this is a double betrayal, a double grieving. You're dealing with the loss of what you thought the marriage was, because it's almost like your world comes crashing down when this information comes out, and you got to figure out how to rebuild yourself. But then you're dealing with the loss of that relationship with that friend. I mean, think about your best friend, who you share everything with, your most intimate details, your secrets. And meanwhile, they're the actual individual who's betraying you.
Wow.
I mean, that's a hard pill to swallow. And some would say that the pain of the friend could be, I don't know. It depends upon the person. For some, the pain of the spouse is worse than the friend. For some, the pain of the friend is worse than the spouse. It just really depends on the nature of that friendship, how long it's lasted, what's actually happened.
This stuff gets so heavy, right? When you think that you have it bad, you just look around the corner and somebody has it devastatingly bad. I mean, didn't you say that the friend actually committed suicide?
Yeah, and that's the other thing. So not only did you betray me as a friend,
then
but
you exited the building.
You exited the building. You took your life. And so now I don't even have the closure that I'm looking for, because guess what? I was going to go to you to have a conversation, because my spouse won't tell me everything. There's the trickle truth. I got to figure out how to maneuver through all of these emotions. And that's what we're talking about today. How to deal with the resentment, how to deal with the emotional triggers. Listen, you're watching the Couples Academy show. We'll be right back right after this short break.
Welcome back, everybody. You're watching the Couples Academy show. We got some comments in here. First of all, good morning, Louisa. Good to see you. And Dee Dee, good morning. You're saying here, let's go to this comment. Saturday evening, I enjoyed a small Valentine's Day virtual celebration of about 100 women of various ages and marital statuses who gathered to celebrate one another. I I mean, that's a cool way to celebrate Valentine's Day. I know a lot of folks were doing virtual things. One of my friends reached out and said that they were going to do virtual yoga and order food in. So that was happening quite a bit. Lorraine says, my husband kissed me happy Valentine's Day and then spent the rest of the day helping my daughter with renovations. I mean, can you be mad at that? That sounds I don't know. I don't know how you feel about that, Lorraine. Was that good or bad? I don't know. Good morning, Chris from Jacksonville, Florida. Good morning. Hey, Zach. Good morning to you as well. We have another comment here from Anique. Good morning, Anique from Benjamin here, tuning in from Kigali, Rwanda. We've been watching you guys for about a month now, and we love your show and are learning a lot. God bless you. God bless you right back at you. Let's jump into this topic, Asadi, which I think is really going to help people, because we're talking about how to deal with resentment when people have hurt you, disappointed you, frustrated you in some way, and left you to deal with the baggage. How do you not be bipolar? It's almost like, how can you not have ups and downs all the time thinking about such an offense?
Yeah. Now, when we're dealing with bipolar, he said bipolar emotions, and he could be describing the type of emotions that he has. Obviously, bipolar, that's actually going up and
extremely up and extremely low.
It's moodiness. There's a lot of moods that are expressed and emotions that are expressed. I'm not saying, I don't know if he is actually bipolar, but it's a description of what he's actually going through. But the resentment, like, how do you overcome the resentment? Well, first of all, let's unpack what resentment actually is. It's bitter indignation and anger for being treated in a particular way. Yeah. And one thing we know is that when you are in a frustrated space with your spouse and you're not getting the answers and you don't have closure, things go from bad to worse. And oftentimes there's a loss of compassion that you have for your partner. And the decrease of compassion leads to an automatic increase of resentment. You see how that happens? Compassion and empathy is really seeing with someone else's eyes, hearing what someone else's ears, feeling with someone else's heart. Where you're taking the time to understand, you're taking the time to connect and to really connect with them to understand why this happened. But when there is no that resentment significantly rises. And resentment can often lead to contempt. And contempt is like when you have hatred and vitriol for your spouse. Now, he said, it's almost like Prince's song, I love you, but I hate you. Can you love and hate your spouse all at the same time? As they say, there's a thin line between love and hate. And so the feelings that I have for you, I'm very passionate about you, but I'm so passionate about what happened, and I don't know how to deal with all of this. Just
having an indignation about what was done to them and not being able to get over those emotions. I mean, this is something that you can understand, right? You still want to be with this person. It's a lot easier to deal with resentment when you cut that person off and just exit them out of your life. You don't have to see them. You don't have to deal with them. That's it. But the one person died, they committed suicide. So you will never get a chance to actually rectify that relationship personally, one-on-one. And now there's this spouse that you still love, that you want to understand, that you maybe want to find that compassion. And that's probably where he's talking about the bipolar effect he's feeling. Like 1 minute he's down and he's probably processing and looking at the relationship and maybe having some level of understanding about how I got here, like maybe looking at all the details and understanding what part he played. And then the next moment, he's furious in indignation because this actually happened, that my wife did this to me with my best friend and he's gone. So you can understand how this would be a very difficult thing to deal with.
And so whether this is you, maybe you haven't had an affair or your spouse hasn't cheated on you, and for other reasons you're dealing with resentment. So overall, what do you do with this resentment? Let's go to the steps. Number one, don't hide or deny your feelings, express it. A lot of times we have a tendency of bottling things in and not talking about it. A lot of times we hold on to bitterness and resentment and unresolved issues in our hearts and in our minds, and literally we're ruminating in it, right? And what happens is we create this emotional disconnect because we can't get out of our mind what has happened. And so you've got to get to a place where you have a conversation with your spouse and allow yourself to release what is going on the inside of you, because the issue will never be resolved if your spouse is not even aware of what the issue is, or if they are aware of what that issue is, but you're not having ongoing conversations. Trust and believe, it will work against you. So it's not about the one conversation. It's about ongoing, continuous conversations till you get some type of resolution and heal from that particular issue.
And I think something so serious like this needs like some kind of intervention, like a tool. Like it's difficult to be the hurt person that has to express all this frustration and resentment to the person that hurt them without them going from 0 to 10.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and then that person probably has their side of the story as to why this happened, right? What was missing in the relationship? So now you have all these defensive, walls going up, and the person that has an issue never actually gets heard because of how they deliver the message.
Absolutely.
So it's really important for you to learn how to do that. And sometimes it's just as simple as going to a Google search and finding out how to have these conversations. We talked about this early last week about how there's a lot of methods, like writing is a powerful method to bring about some type of resolution when we need to talk about serious issues.
Absolutely. Let's go to the next point.
The next one is release your emotional toxicity. And so a lot of times when you are feeling that resentment, of course, especially the way he explains it, ebbing and flowing between feeling okay and feeling really frustrated, you're holding on to sadness, you're holding on to bitterness, you're holding on to anger and wanting to have revenge. All these things overcome you. You've got to find a process to get rid of those and to release those things. And I love methods like meditating, and actually yoga helps. There's a lot of ways that you can begin to release those toxic emotions out of your body.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, you're watching the Couples Academy show. We're talking about how to overcome resentment. We got a few more steps, but we wanted you to take a look at this because many of you are in need of help and you're stuck, right? You're stuck in doing absolutely nothing. Well, if you do nothing, you'll remain in your situation. So find out what services you can take advantage of, and we'll be right back. This is the Couples Academy show.
Sign up today for the Better Marriage Club and receive exclusive access to the private Facebook group to get your questions answered and your problems solved. Access to our marriage library of live seminars. Watch the Couples Academy Daily Show. Call the help hotline for laser coaching. Get our weekly action guides and receive a private one-on-one call with one of our marriage coaches. To join the Better Marriage Club, simply text MARRIAGE to 973-490-4668. Join today. Your marriage deserves it.
Welcome back, everybody. You're watching the Couples Academy show, and I want to go to some of your comments here about what you did for Valentine's Day. And Lorraine says, it was all good. I watched her kids all day. Then she made us dinner. Very nice. I love that. Clarence says, my wife gave me a pedicure on Valentine's Day. Woohoo!
She took care of those feet.
That's sweet. Did you need the help? I mean, okay, let's not go there. J.D. Pruitt says, I cooked for my wife and made chocolate-covered fruit and baked her one of her favorite cakes. That's what I'm talking about, getting in the kitchen.
What, Danielle? All right. Listen, guys, I don't cook, but I can bake with the best of them. I can make a box cake and put frosting on that thing and, and hook it up and make it look all pretty. And then when you dig into it, it's so moist, right? It's so moist. It just melts in your mouth and not in your hands. That's what we do up in the Pettiford house when it comes to the oven.
Thank you, Duncan Hines.
Well, I'm feeling a little bit of resentment here. I don't know what to think about that.
Just add the water and mix and spin.
All right, let's go to the next point, guys. You have to embrace self-care. This is one of the ways that you overcome resentment. Now, we've talked about this at length, but there's 4 aspects of who we are. There's our emotional self. There's our spiritual self. There's our intellectual self, and then our physical self. And you have to take the time to invest back into you. Because if you don't take the time to do that, then listen, you will be no good to the world. Think about it. If I'm a broken Hassani, I'm going to bring a broken husband, a broken father, a broken business individual. I've got to become whole and healed. And as I become the best version of myself, it manifests in all areas of my life. So take the time to pause, get away, get some self-care, read a book, pray, meditate, yoga, all the things that you talked about. Get some spiritual cleansing, see a therapist, do whatever it takes to focus on your healing to put you in a better place.
Yep, let's go to the next one. Discover your why for staying. And that's a big one, right? Because we're talking about how to deal with your resentment. We know that we can't carry resentment into a relationship that's going to be successful. We have to learn how to release that resentment and all the negative emotions that come with it. The Bible even tells us that we need to count the cost. We need to measure the cost of our actions, right? And so that's a good way of looking at it. When we think about the hurt, we have to also look at the good. And here we are still standing here, right? We talk about this a lot, how couples, when they're going through something, they're really frustrated. They talk about all the issues, and you have every right biblically to walk out of the marriage. There was an affair, there was an offense, yet you're still here. You're still standing. So if you're still standing, then stand, right? Then stand, and stop allowing your words and your actions to steer the ship of where you're going. Focus on redirecting and correcting course so that you can move forward.
There it is. Now, regarding the biblical rights, it's absolutely true. When there's a violation, you can go. Obviously, God believes in restoration and redeeming relationships, and he creates a pathway for that. And he talks about the importance of wise counsel. So taking advantage of all of the word that the word has to say, you can actually overcome your resentment and get to a better place. Now, the next thing, create a thought journal. This is critically important because your greatest battle is right here in your mind. It's no longer about what your spouse is currently doing. It's about what your spouse has done. And constantly you go back to the past, and you're imagining, you're visualizing, you're ruminating in all that was done. And the reality is every emotion is a result of the thought. If you're thinking negatively, you're going to feel negative. And so one of the things we encourage people to do, whatever the trigger may be, write the trigger down. Whatever the word or the phrase or the ideas that constantly come to your head about your spouse, about yourself, about your marriage, about that affair, get it all down on paper, and then begin to really process through that. What about this is the actual truth? How much of this is drenched in my feelings and emotions? And then we work them through a process of what to do with those thoughts in order to overcome those emotional triggers. So great tip for you, get a thought journal and begin to journal and release what it is that's going on in your mind so it doesn't stay in here.
That's a good tip for men, because I think men typically don't do things like that. You know, women, we always got a journal. We always are pouring out, and we certainly pour out our thoughts, right? Dear journal, this is what happened today. But it's a great way for you to actually be able to look at what you're really thinking, right? What am I actually thinking? Because to our next point, which is manage your thoughts and emotions. That really is a big one, guys. And I know that we're talking about physical things that you're experiencing, but when we talk about our emotions and those thoughts, they are the things that carry us towards every action. It is the thing that gets you into the trouble or into the blessing that you walk into, right? And so we have to be wardens, stewards, that's a nicer word, but wardens is probably more proper, of our thoughts and our emotions, because those things move us to take action. And those are the things that literally cement into the wall around us those negative emotions, all that bitterness and all that sadness, the anger, you know, all those negative emotions that come along with resentment. Those things are ruminating in our thoughts and in our emotions, right? So we can actually turn those off. The Bible tells us we need to cast down those imaginations that rise themselves up against the word of God. And so, you know, those things are, if they're in opposition to the plan, to the goal, to the focus of you moving forward, then those are the things that you need to switch off. And when I explain how to do it, I tell people it's like a light switch. When the thoughts come to your mind, they bring the emotions with them, right? So you think a thought, you start to feel it in your body. Depending on who you are and how you are, will determine where. But when you feel those emotions, turn that thing off like a light switch and change the thought to some form of truth. I'm so bitter. I'm so angry with that person, but I love that person, right? I have the grace to cover that. I have the grace to cover a multitude of sins because the Lord gives me the strength to do so. You have to be the one to change that, or transmutate, people will say, that thought into something positive.
Now, what we're talking about is how you overcome resentment. Now, if you have resentment in your marriage, it's nothing that the marriage needs to do. We're talking about the steps that you need to take, because that resentment is harbored in your heart and in your mind. And so listen, we're oftentimes waiting for the other person to do for us us what they cannot do. Now, they do have their responsibility. They do have to show up the right way. They have to be repentant. They have to have regret. They have to have a genuine desire to want to become the best versions of themselves. But that's their work. We've been talking about what you need to do if you're the hurt person, because you can get beyond your hurt. And so it's hard to focus on trying to restore the marriage if you're broken and unwhole. So the focus is to become whole and healed. And these are the steps to do that. And as you do, then you begin to see clearly. You begin to experience clearly. And then you see the possibility of what can be for that particular relationship. So listen, dig into this, rewatch this again and again and again, because it'll really make a difference in your life. Listen, guys, we hope that you enjoyed this show today. We have other great topics coming this week. Make sure you stay tuned. We have a great actual episode that we're preparing this week. It's a secret, it's a surprise, but I think you're going to like it. So stay tuned in. Share it with everybody you know. You've been watching the Couples Academy show. Talk to you guys soon.
Bye, guys.
If you would like to be a guest on our show, or if you're interested in one of our restoration programs, contact us today at couplesacademy.org.